Have you ever just stopped and thought, how did I end up with these political views, these core ideas about how things should be run? Or maybe you look around and wonder why some people are, well, super involved in politics, campaigning, debating, while others just seem totally switched off. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something foundational: political participation, culture, and socialization. We're going to try and peel back those layers, look at the forces, sometimes hidden, that shape how we engage, how we vote, maybe even who we are as citizens. Our mission, really, is to pull out the key insights from the sources you've shared, giving you a clear, quick, but thorough understanding of these pretty complex ideas.
Yeah, and what's really striking is just how connected these three things are. Participation, culture, socialization. They don't exist in isolation. They weave together and end up shaping, not just what individuals do, but the whole social fabric. Understanding them is, I think, absolutely key to navigating the civic world.
It really feels like the ground floor. So, okay, let's kick things off with that first pillar: political participation. When you hear that, I bet for most people, the first thing that pops into their head is election day, voting. But what's the actual definition we're working with? Is it really just about marking a ballot?
Oh, it's definitely much broader than just voting. The core idea is any intentional way citizens get involved. Involved in what? In the decisions being made, the policies being formed in their state or country. And that involvement can be direct or it can be indirect.
Okay, intentional involvement. So I'm curious then, what are some of those other ways, maybe the less obvious ways citizens can actually participate, can make an impact, that go beyond just the voting booth? The sources hint there's quite a range.
Exactly. It's a whole spectrum. And sometimes the less visible stuff can be surprisingly powerful. Take joining a political party, for instance. It might seem a bit niche, maybe, but that's often where policy ideas get debated and shaped before they even become campaign promises. You can influence the platform, help candidates.
So getting involved earlier in the process.
Precisely. Then, of course, there's holding public office. That's very direct influence, right? Whether it's local, like a school board, or national, you're representing a community, making policy. And yes, casting votes is still fundamental. It's one of the most direct ways individuals shape who governs and what issues get attention.
Yeah.
But think about engaging in political activities, too, like going to rallies, attending town hall meetings, participating in debates. These are spaces for expressing views, for dialogue.
More active public engagement.
Right. And here's one people might overlook: serving as an election observer. This isn't about picking a side. It's about ensuring the process itself is fair and transparent. That strengthens the whole democratic system.
That's a really interesting one. Maintaining the integrity of the system itself.
Exactly. Then you've got participation through civil society organizations. Think advocacy groups working on human rights, social justice, the environment. They mobilize people, raise awareness, and put pressure on policymakers.
So collective action outside of formal politics.
Yes. And finally, there's engaging directly with government through petitions and public input. Submitting petitions, showing up to public hearings, joining official consultations. It's about making sure government decisions actually reflect what people need or want.
Wow. Okay. That is a much, much broader picture than just voting day. Makes you think, maybe you've only ever considered voting, but looking at that list, which of these other paths have you taken? Or, might you think about exploring in the future? All right, so we've talked about what people do, politically participation, but you mentioned earlier, these things are intertwined. The what must be shaped by something deeper, right? A sort of why and how, which seems to bring us neatly to political culture. Is this the underlying current guiding our actions? What exactly is political culture?
That's a great way to put it, the underlying current. Political culture is essentially the shared mindset, the collective psychology, if you will, of a society towards politics and government. It's the mix of beliefs, values, attitudes, even habits people have regarding leaders, participation, how the country's run. And it generally has three key aspects or dimensions.
Okay, three dimensions. What are they?
First is the affective dimension. This is all about emotions and attachments. Think about the strong feelings people have: loyalty or pride towards their country or a party, maybe admiration for a leader. Or on the flip side, frustration, deep distrust, maybe just total apathy. These feelings powerfully influence whether people even want to engage.
So the emotional connection or disconnection.
Got it. Second is the cognitive dimension. This relates to knowledge and understanding. What do people actually know about political issues, about the institutions, the processes? How well can they think critically about it all? And this raises a really interesting point because while studies often show people think they know more than they actually do.
Right, the gap between perceived knowledge and actual knowledge.
Exactly. And that gap can seriously impact how effectively they participate, or if they participate. And the third aspect is the evaluative dimension. This is where people make judgments. They assess how the government's performing, what they think of political leaders, whether policies are good or bad, if the whole system feels effective or legitimate to them. It's the assessment part.
Okay, so affective feelings, cognitive knowledge, and evaluative judgment. That makes sense. So if those are the dimensions within a culture, how do they combine? Do they lead to different overall types of political culture in different societies? What do the sources suggest there?
Yeah, the sources outline 5 main types, sort of ideal categories. First, there's parochial political culture. Imagine maybe a very small traditional community, quite isolated. People's focus is intensely local family, village matters. They might have very little awareness of or interest in the national government or broader political system.
Okay, very localized, almost unaware of the bigger picture.
Right. Second is subject political culture. Here, people are generally aware of the national government and its impact. They know the laws, they pay taxes, but they tend to be passive observers rather than active participants. They see themselves as subjects of the government, accepting its decisions, maybe relying on it, but not really feeling empowered to influence it much.
Aware but passive.
Okay. Third, you have participant political culture. This is where individuals see themselves as active citizens. They're aware, they're engaged, they feel they have a role to play, and maybe even a responsibility to influence government. They vote, they join groups, they speak out.
Much more active engagement.
Definitely. Fourth is legalistic political culture. This one's characterized by a really strong belief in the importance of established laws, rules, and procedures. The rule of law is seen as absolutely fundamental for political stability. There's a deep respect for process, for doing things by the book.
Emphasis on law and order, process.
Sort of, yeah, more the process and the legal framework itself. And finally, there's civic political culture. This is often seen as a blend, maybe, of participant and subject, but with a strong emphasis on democratic values. People value democracy, individual rights, active citizenship. They participate, but they do it with a sense of civic duty, responsibility, and a belief in working together for the common good.
5 distinct types. It's pretty easy to imagine how different those would feel on the ground in different countries or communities. Makes you reflect, doesn't it? When you look at those descriptions, which one feels like it best describes the political environment you see around you? Or maybe even your own personal approach?
Okay, this is fascinating. We have participation, the what. We have culture, the why, and the how. Now, let's bring in the third piece, political socialization. If culture is the blueprint, then socialization sounds like, well, how that blueprint gets built inside each of us, how we actually acquire our political identity. That's exactly it. Political socialization is the lifelong process through which we learn about politics. It's how we develop our political knowledge, our beliefs, our attitudes, even our behaviors. We absorb this stuff from all kinds of different sources around us.
Right, various sources. That sounds intriguing. What are these sources? Who or what are the agents, as the material calls them, that are actually doing this shaping? I suspect there are more than we consciously realize.
Oh, absolutely. There are several key agents, and they often work together, sometimes reinforcing each other, sometimes maybe conflicting. First and foremost, usually, is the family. It plays such a crucial role, especially early on. Think about it. Kids overhear conversations. They observe their parents' attitudes towards leaders or news events, maybe see who they vote for. Values, beliefs, even party preferences often get passed down, sometimes explicitly, sometimes just absorbed.
The dinner table effect, yeah.
Totally. Then there's the school. Schools provide formal education about government, history, civics, but they also socialize in less direct ways, teaching rules, cooperation, maybe even patriotism or specific civic duties.
Learning the system formally and informally.
Right. Then, especially as we get older, peer groups become really important. Discussions with friends, share experiences, the social norms within your group. These can powerfully shape your political views and attitudes, sometimes challenging what you learned at home.
Yeah, fitting in or maybe rebelling against the group view.
Exactly. And we can't ignore the mass media. Newspapers, TV news, radio, and of course now, social media. They are hugely influential in setting the agenda, framing issues, disseminating information or misinformation, and exposing us constantly to different political perspectives and narratives.
Shaping what we even think about.
Precisely. Political parties themselves are active agents too. They deliberately try to socialize people into their way of thinking. They promote their ideologies, their policies, their candidates, trying to build loyalty and support. Religious leaders and institutions can also play a role. They share moral frameworks and values that often connect to political issues, and sometimes leaders take explicit stances on policies or candidates.
Hmm, that's another layer.
And finally,
Yeah.
think about influential people. These could be celebrities, well-known intellectuals, community leaders, public figures, people with a platform. They can sway public opinion, lend credibility to certain ideas, and encourage political engagement or sometimes disengagement. So overall, it's this complex combination of influences: family, school, friends, media, parties, leaders that really molds a person's political identity and how they behave as a citizen in their society.
It really is profound when you lay it all out like that. All these different inputs constantly shaping us. It makes you pause and reflect. Looking back, which of those agents do you think had the biggest impact on shaping your own political identity, your own views? We've certainly covered a lot of ground today. We started with what people do, political participation in all its forms.
Mhm.
Then we explored the deeper currents, the beliefs, feelings, and judgments that make up political culture. And finally, we looked at political socialization, the complex process, and the many agents that actually shape who we become as political beings. It's quite a comprehensive picture.
It really is. And I think connecting these dots helps us see that our political world isn't just something out there happening in government buildings. It's deeply connected to how we as individuals and as communities perceive that world, feel about it, know about it, and ultimately how we act within it. Understanding these links, participation, culture, socialization, honestly, it's a shortcut to being more informed and maybe more self-aware about our own role in civic life.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a pretty significant thought, doesn't it? If our political culture and our own identities are so profoundly shaped by these socialization agents, what responsibility does that put on us? Not just to participate, but maybe to critically look at those very agents shaping us, and perhaps even more actively to try and foster the kind of political culture we actually want to see in our communities. Something to think about. We definitely encourage you to continue your own deep dive into these really important concepts